Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Let's do another Kruleboyz tier list video. It's a Kruleboyz tier list video. I haven't done one of these in a long time, maybe 5 or 6 months. I think it was one of the first videos that I made on this channel, and boy, have we come a long way since then. I mean, that's half a joke, but it's also half serious. We've had some pretty significant changes to a number of our units. In addition, we've had some pretty significant point reductions to some of our units, which of course changes how we value them. With of course Manok Dekunin still being F tier. So first, let me walk you through how I decide where a unit goes, like what all the tiers mean. So an S tier unit is a unit that we're going to be including in 95% of the lists. It's a unit around which we'll build a list. It's a unit that, generally speaking, will bring its value to the table. It's like an auto include. An A tier unit is a unit that is solid, is really good, but we're not building lists around it. We're not auto including it in every list. An A tier unit could even be a unit that isn't seeing play because of a meta, right? But still like a really good unit, and yeah, solid. B tier is going to be a unit that is situationally good. It's a unit that is good depending on the map or the meta or what your opponent is running. It's good sometimes, but generally speaking, if you're unaware of what meta or what armies you'll be facing, you wouldn't generally include it in a list. It's like, oh, my buddy plays a bunch of monsters, so I'll play this anti-monster hero. It's like, right, so it's only going to be good in niche situations. C tier units are units that are technically playable, but are terrible. C tier units you never really see in lists. Like they're bad, right? And then an F tier unit is a unit that is worse than that. A unit that like you wouldn't even really play. To be honest, F tier, like, you would feel bad putting an F tier unit on the table even if it was a casual game with your friends. You would think to yourself, why did I bother? Like, what's the point of this unit? So let's start off with the oh, I don't know. Let's start off maybe with the monsters. So I think Snatch a Boss, I'm also going to include Scumtrek with them because I can't imagine a world where one gets a rating and the other one doesn't. Oh, and of course, we're missing our Gobsprak. Can't believe that. So to start, is Gobsprak... So, and of course, these ratings are for this season, right? They're for this season. This season, from what I understand, is going to be a year long. So these units we're going to be seeing in this season for a long time. The question is Gobsprak S tier? Do you auto-include Gobsprak in every list that you play? Like... I think so. I think that if you're writing a Kruleboyz list in this meta with this GHB, meta is not the right word, in this GHB, I think that you start by including Gobsprak. I think he's a unit that you're going to build. You're not going to build your whole list around, but like primal dice are your primal dice plan is Gobsprak. He feels very, very integral to this GHB. So I'm going to stick him as S tier. It's going to be the first S tier unit. Let's go up the list this way. Kragnos. I think Kragnos is probably a C tier. But to be frank, he could very well be an F tier. There's nothing about, like, Kragnos. You know what? I think I might actually include Kragnos in the F tier. The thing about Kragnos, and maybe I'm wrong, if you disagree, let me know in the comments, but I feel like with Kragnos, you're actively working against what the army is trying to do. Kruleboyz, this is fundamentally how Kruleboyz works. It's like, I'm going to throw out these crappy screens, or this good screen and this crappy screen, and I'm going to attempt to hold on with my front lines with save stacking and summon Boggy Mist and with all part of the plan and choking mist Like I'm gonna hang on to these screens in my front line using all my tricks, noisy racket, for as long as possible, so that my archers, my bolt boys, have enough time to whittle away at the army, and I'm able to position my monsters to wall them and get rid of them off the table. Like, that's how the army functions. So what's Kragnos doing? Is he charging in all by himself? If that's the plan, I think there's better options, right? I think even like a Gargant mercenary, I'm pretty sure you can include them in all destruction armies, right? That might be better. You know, like a Gatebreaker might be better if that's what you're going for. Still don't think it's good, right? Still don't think it's good. So Kragnos, I think, is actively working against what we're trying to do with this army, and that's why I think I'm going to leave it at F tier. Now, Snatchaboss and Scumdrek, either A tier or S tier. To be honest, I think that they're S tier. I think he's an S tier unit. The reason that I'm going to put him in S tier is because you are going to include him in every army that you make, and he buffs everything else around you to, like, just as a support piece, he's integral. Just as a support piece, he's integral. His ability to give that extra wound on for venom encrusted weapons is great. It's great. And then he himself as a monster slaps pretty hard. He's got some good 3-inch reach on some of his attacks. Like, he's just... I think you're going to include him in pretty much every list that you write. The real question that I see people discussing right now in my Discord and in other places is, do you include one or do you include two? If you include two, is one of them Scumdrek? You know, but I never see people having a discussion of like, well, should I include a Snatchaboss, at least one in a list? Killaboss on Vulture, I think, is A tier. I think that the Killaboss on Vulture would see a lot more play if Gobsprak and if Snatchaboss weren't better. You know, I think that he would see more play. I personally, not only do I love the model, but I also love the War Scroll. Sorry, not even the War Scroll. I love that he's a 14-inch moving, flying cavalry sort of piece. He fits in so well as a support piece. I personally always like to play with a monster in my list because there's always something that needs to be smashed to rubble. You know, when my opponent is you know, doing heroic actions and I'm not, monstrous actions, I feel like I'm left out. So, you know, I always love to have a monster in a list, at least one. And Killaboss is a great monster, but he's being shadowed by Gobsprak this season. So, you know, Killaboss and Vulture, again, great unit. I would love to play a list. In fact, maybe I will. Maybe I'll go out of my way to do that. I'm currently, like, you know, just like everybody else, I have one Snatchaboss and I have one Vulture, right? Because I bought them, you know, because of course I'm gonna buy, but I kind of want two of each, you know, but I don't want to get the GW 3D printed one, or sorry, I don't want to get the GW ones because they're mono pose, and even though the little hero on the top is the same, buying the same model again and just having it be pretty much the same feels bad for me as a player. So I'm looking at, you know, some 3D printed options. And got some pretty good ones so far, but I think that's what I'm going to end up doing if I decide to go for two, because playing like a Killaboss and a Gobsprak on my dining room table with, you know, friends and family feels like it would be a fun time, right? Like, who wouldn't want to run a list that was like Gobsprak, Killaboss on Vulture, Snatchaboss, Scumdrek, 2 Swamp Call Shamans, right? Like, that would just be a fun list to play. It would just be a fun list to play. So that's it for monsters. I don't believe that I'm missing any. I did a double check before I started, so I'm pretty sure it's probably fine. Okay, so let's go through some heroes. Now, Killaboss. Now, what's going to be good here? I mean, Break-a-Boss is going to be an A tier. Solid, absolutely solid unit. Really, really good. Like, does his job really well. He's slow, but that's okay. We have some tricks, right? The slappiest unit in the army. Awesome sculpt, great model, awesome like feel to it, fantastic. Going to be an A tier for sure. Nashtoof, I also believe is going to be an A tier. Nashtoof fast, that 3-up save, which we have a heart, you know, which is good for our army. You know, you can save stack him, so you're a 3-up save ignoring a couple rand. That's pretty good. He makes a good general. I'm seeing him a lot this season because of the battle plans. You know, like he's a quick piece. absolutely fantastic A tier unit, not an S tier unit, because again, you're not going to auto include him in every list, and he's not going to be the best all the time. Like, you can have a really good list and not include Nash Tooth this season, but I don't think you can have a really good list and not include Gobsprak or a Snatcher Boss. I think if you showed me a list and you're like, hey, like I'm playing at my local whatever, and I'm just bringing this list, and it didn't have a Gobsprak and it didn't have a Scumdrek, I'd be like, well, like what do you like? You'd have to convince me. Same thing with a Swamp Kala. I think Swamp Kala S tier. Is a Swamp Kala? Yeah, I mean Swamp Kala is going to be an S tier, right? Like, you include him in every list. You need him in every list. He's the one. They bring with them such good spells. They are locusts. You know, you can get that battalion with them. I think a Swamp Kala Shaman's going to be an S tier. I think he's an auto include in every list. Okay, now some more challenging ones. Murknob. I think Murknob, I thought at the beginning of the season when everyone, when I was reading about, like all the primal dice and everything, I thought for sure that it was going to be, that Murknob was going to see his day in the light. And I still think he's significantly better this season, obviously because of the magic, but also because he got another 10-point reduction. He's the cheapest thing in our army now, right? He's a hero, which is a bummer. If he wasn't a hero, I think you would see him more. If he wasn't a hero, I think he would be an A tier unit. But the only time I can see you playing a Murknob now is if you know that where you're going to be playing, there's going to be a lot of endless spells. There's going to be a lot of not endless spells. There's just going to be a lot of magic coming your way. So, I mean, he has a 5-up spell ignore for endless spells as well. So if you know that there's a lot of Jaws running around, Malevolent Maelstroms running around, Pendulums running around, if you're at your local game store in your play group, if people are able to throw a lot of wounds at you, mortal wounds at you with spells, then, because a lot of spells need vision, right? So if they can't see you because you're invisible outside of 12, I think he's better in non-Grinning Blades lists. But who wants to run a non-Grinning Blades list, right? So, surprisingly, for me anyway, Murknob B tier. Still good. Kiloboss, I think probably C tier. I don't think that he's unplayable. I don't think, like, Kragnos is F tier because he's working against what our army wants to do. Manak Dekunin is F tier because he's like, because he's not made for the competitive player. He's made for the casual. He's made for the narrative player, the path to glory player, and that's okay. All these named heroes, like, I'm okay if all these named heroes are bad, and they're not made for the competitive scene. They're made for the dining room table. They're made for path to glory. Like, that's great. I think that's absolutely fine. Gobsprak S tier though, right? Like wow, like geez. Points reductions, right? Magic meta. Suddenly he's amazing. So I think Kiloboss with Stabgrot, I think, would probably sit at a C tier. I don't think he's unplayable. I don't think there's a situation where he's better. I think he might be a little bit better now that Look Out Sir got the change, but then again, we're invisible outside of 12 anyway, so that's not helping us really. I don't know. What is he? All part of the plan? Is that what he is? Is he an all part of the plan for a unit of double reinforced Gut Rippas or double reinforced Hobgrots? Is that what he's doing? That's probably it, and I don't think there's a situation where that's really has a high value. We struggle with hero slots in this army, and I can't imagine seeing a Kiloboss out-competing a Murknob. You're right. 30 points cheaper. I don't see a Kiloboss out-competing a Murknob. Is he even still 100 points? I don't even know because I don't pay any attention to this unit. No, he's 90 points. So 20 points. Murknob is 20 points cheaper. So C tier, if I saw him in a list, I would probably tell somebody, hey, if you had exactly 90 points left in the list, right? It's like, God, Endless Spell is probably better. If you had exactly 90 points, a Merc Knob is better because you have a hero slot, obviously. So, Gut Rippers. Well, let's say Bolt Boys are S tier. You're gonna include them in every list that you play. If you're not including Bolt Boys, I'm not sure what you're doing. You know, the only question is how many. I still think that 2x6 is the way to go. I've seen, you can play the MSU Bolt Boy list, and that has its value. That could be, like, playing the MSU Bolt Boy list, I think, is where it belongs, is when you play weekly with other people, like where you have like a play group and you want to throw a curveball at them. You want to throw a curveball at them so that they're not sure what to do with you next time. It's like, okay, here's 2 kill bows and 8 units of Bolt Boys, right? Like it'll just throw them off. I think that's where that list belongs. Probably not so much in competitive play, but I mean, am I wrong on this? Like, are you not including Bolt Boys in every list that you make? I think so. And they're great, like they're expensive, right? 120 points for 3, and they're squishy, but fantastic. Hobgrot Slittas, I think, are A tier. I would almost want to put them in S tier. You play them in every single list, like you're bringing 1 unit of Hobgrot Slittas in every list that you play, because 1 unit of Hobgrot Slittas is going to be better than 1 unit of Gut Rippers. If you want to bring more Gut Rippers, I think it's better to put them in reinforced units, right? So I think you're definitely bringing like 2 units of Gut Rippers and a unit of Hobgrot Slittas. I have made lists where I've had 70 extra points, and I've had a unit of Hobgrot Slittas turn into a unit of Gut Rippers, right? That they do have double the wounds, and they are able to fight in melee better. They are able to survive better than Slittas for 70 more points, but Hobgrot Slittas are awesome. They're great. I love them. They're annoying, and they can run and throw their little grenades. They're great. I think that in the future it would be awesome to have some kind of support unit for them. Like, I really think that the Kiloboss, when they rewrite our book, the Kiloboss should be a Hobgrot unit hero. He should be like a rabble leader. So it's like, hey, if they're wholly within 12 of this unit, then, they get this. And if they, like maybe they get to, after they throw their grenades, they can move a D6, right? So they can run, throw their grenades, and then they can sort of preemptively redeploy back away. Like there's design space there, It's like this little kill boss on foot. All the Gut Rippers are going to be following a kill boss on Gnashtooth. Hobgrot Sliders are following a kill boss on foot, and the army as a whole is following like a vulture and a snatcher boss, right? So, A tier, yeah. Gut Rippers. Oh, I know people are not gonna like me for putting it in B tier, but I'm still thinking B tier. Do I think Gut Rippers are good now? No. Do I think Gut Rippers are better now? Absolutely. Right. Over the course of my time playing this game, they've seen a 30-point reduction. I believe they were 180 to start, which is ludicrous, and now they're down to 150, which is good. There's nothing to be done with them, right? Like there's not really buffs that are going to go into them. If you have Swamp Callas, you're probably not offensively buffing them that often, although you could. You're more likely going to be giving them the elixir from a Swamp Calla and giving them all out defense, maybe even casting Mystic Shield on them, right? So you can save stack them, and then getting that -1 to hit from scare tactics is good, right? So it's like, they're getting better, but I still don't think that they're good. I think that they're going to be better in some situations than others. Obviously, they're going to do better when your opponent is running lots of units that are not heroes, that are not monsters, that are going to get that -1 to hit, and they're going to be worse against more elite armies that have lots of monsters and lots of fighty heroes. So situationally, they're better. In certain playgroups, in certain local metas, I think you could justify taking more of them, depending on what all the other players are playing. But overall, I still think they're B tier. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. So, I don't know. B tier. Tell me, I feel like this is going to be the one where people are going to disagree with me the most, you know? Just kidding. I think Kruleboyz now is probably B tier. He's so cheap. It might, like, you can write a really good list without a Kruleboyz. You know? You can write a really good list without a Kruleboyz. You can't really, like, I think if you're writing a list, so I'm looking at this. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to leave the Kruleboyz here for now, and I'll put the Marshcrawler down at C tier. I'll put the Marshcrawler down at C tier. I don't think Marshcrawler is F tier, but I do think Marshcrawler would be F tier. Oh, sorry, Marshcrawler would be C tier, not F tier. It's not working against what our army's doing. It's not particularly good. It doesn't benefit from venom encrusted weapons. That +1 to hit is not something that we generally care about in our army. It went up in points, so I didn't like it before. I like it less now. But again, I've said this before, but I'll repeat myself. That's okay. You know, it's okay. I just see it as part of the Gloomspite Gitz army. That's fine. It can just be part of the Gloomspite Gitz army, like in our heads. You know, like I own one, but I also play Gitz, and when I put it away on the shelf, I put it away with the Gitz army, because even at 20 more points, it's still pretty much an auto-include in every list that I make for Gloomspite Gitz. So I'm really happy that it sees play and that it's solid in the right list, but it's not for us as Kruleboyz. Okay, so Kruleboyz. B tier, A tier. I wouldn't put it C tier. Not anymore. 80 points. So cheap. So cheap. I can't envision making a list without Gobsprak, a Snatcher Boss, Swamp Calla Shamans, and Bolt Boys. If someone was like, hey, I'm brand new to the game, and I am looking to do a 1,000-point list, I would say, okay, 240 for Gobsprak, 290 for the Snatcher Boss, 200 for 2 Swamp Calla Shamans, and 240 times 2 for 2 different units of Bolt Boys brings us to 1210. Right? So if someone was like, right, and that's not even including any battle lines, so there's some 1,000-point list. I would be bad at giving advice for a 1,000-point list. But I think that 1,210 points, like those units that I just described, I think that's pretty much going to be the beginning of a standard Kruleboyz list. Plus 380 for the battle line units. So 1,590. Right? We're at 1,590. So you're looking at about 400 points. That 400 points, I believe, is where the wiggle room of this army comes in. It's not a lot. We don't have a large model range, and that's okay. But that 400 points, it's like, could be a Vulture, could be a Break-A-Boss, could be an Ashtooth. You could run a couple more units of Hobgrut Slittas. Those would all be good. You could run a few more Bolt Boys, like 1 unit of 3. That would be fine. Another Swamp Calla Shaman, another Snatcher Boss. You could put in a Merc Knob. I don't think you would ever put in more Gut Rippas. No, some people do. I keep forgetting that some people like that playstyle. Like Aaron Newbaum that I interviewed last week, right? Like Aaron likes that double reinforced unit of Gut Rippas, you know, and like it's not my favorite way to play, but I'm not gonna say it's I'm obviously not gonna say it's not good, right? Because this is a player that has done incredibly well for himself. So but you would never include a Kill Boss on foot or a Marshcrawler. Gut Rippa's B tier. Kruleboyz B tier. But you might include a Kruleboyz. So I think I'll just leave it there. I think that I'm pretty happy with this list. Just to review, right? We got Gobsprak as S tier. It's like you're going to include one of them in every list. Amazing this season. Snatcher Boss or Scumdrak. You know, great units. I think Scumdrak's 280 now, right? I think they dropped him 10 points. So that's cool. So I think if you're bringing a second one, you might very well be bringing a Scumdrak, right? Because you're probably also going to be bringing at least 1 unit of Hobgrot. So you're going to get that bet, which is pretty cool. Swamp Calla Shamans and Bolt Boys are going to be included in every single list. And then after that, you're going to have some kind of slappy hero, be it a Vulture or a Break-A-Boss or an Ashtooth, right? Like, you're definitely going to be bringing some of those in your list. Right now, Aaron was arguing for the double Ashtooth list, right? Which I think is awesome, you know? Like, high mobility, something that we suffer in this army. So that's pretty cool. Hobgrut Slittas is a great unit. Run and shoot, you know, cheap. comical, love him, great unit. Murknob is going to be situational, right? Same with Gut Rippas, including more Gut Rippas in your list. Ugh! Gut Rippas and Kilbo, people are going to debate me on. So we could just say this. Gut Rippas and Kilbo are either going to be B tier or A tier. I think of all the units in the army, I think that these two are where it is going to be the most contentious, and I think they could sort of be A tier. I think that people could make an argument for A tier, and they could be, you know, they could have some good arguments, but for me personally, I'm still going to leave them at B tier. I still would rather include Hobgrot Slittas as battle line units in my army rather than Gut Rippas. If GW waved their magic wand and said Hobgrots are now just unconditional battle line in Kruleboyz, I would say sweet. I'm starting every list with, 3 units of Hobgrot Slittas. I'm going to start every list like that, and I might even go upwards of 5. It's like, hey guys, you're getting in the way. You're getting in the way and you're dying. And that's great. Run at them. Throw your grenades at them. We'll think about a redeploy. Probably not. And that's going to be that, right? Kiloboss on foot. You're not going to play him. Same with the Marsh Crawler. You're not going to play him. People still argue with me and tell me that Marsh Crawler is good. But I have a feeling that more often than not, they're still using Venom Encrusted weapons on a Marsh Crawler. Right? Because his attacks are not great. I'm just going to pull it up here. It's not like he doesn't hit very hard, right? So he gets his own +1 to hit. So the nets and sticks, 2-inch range, 4 attacks with the +1. And again, you can't give him all out attack now to get a 2-up, right? So you're looking at 3s and 4s. No rend for 1 damage. 4, so that's a maximum damage of 4 for that first attack. And the second one is 4 attacks, 2-up, 3-up, 1 rend, 2 damage. I mean, like, it's not the worst, I guess. But, 0 rend and then 1 rend. You're looking at 12 damage maximum. But realistically, you're not even getting that, 4, 4, 0, 1. That's the attack profile of a Gut Rippa. It's even if it's with his own +1 attack, it's just not doing it. The regenerate again is in your hero phase. So when we get our book rewritten, we'll probably get the new regenerate that they gave to the trolls, where it's every hero phase, right? So that would be better if you could heal better. It's too bad though, because he's a 12 wound model that doesn't bracket. He has a big base size. He's got a 6-inch move, which is okay, 4-up save, so he doesn't have a 5-up save or anything. Like, he's close. I think if his crew drummer did all part of the plan, I think you'd play him. We're a command point heavy army, or hungry army. So if you could throw out. If you could maximum lose 1 to Battle Shock without having to spend command points, I think that would be worth it, or at least worth considering and playing. So, yeah. I mean, he's almost there. His Grot Snatch a Crew, that ability is good too. He's almost there. But he just doesn't bring. He doesn't hit hard. He doesn't buff our army. He's almost there. Almost there. So we'll see. But I also don't want a full rework, because I don't want Gitz to lose him. I don't know. Again, this is one of those things where, like, on War Scrolls, you could absolutely say, like, he's a crew drummer. And you could say, if he's part of a Gloomspite Gitz army, he does this. And if he's part of a Kruleboyz army, he does this. And if he's part of a Big Wa army, he does this. I think that's fine. I think doing those things is fine. So that people can actually use their models in these different situations. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to see them on the table. And then F tier, Manak, Dekanon, and Kragnos working against the army. Not like just don't play them in any kind of competitive. I've seen everything in the Kruleboyz list. Everything. I've seen a 3 Gnashtooth Kragnos list. I've never seen a Manak, Dekanon list ever. So, I mean, that says enough, right? Anyway, let me know with which decisions you disagree with me down in the comments below, because and come on over to the Discord. We're always having a good time over there. I can't even read everything that everyone's writing. It's overwhelming. But until then, you know what to do. Wah!